We're going to pivot over to the White House, where Weijia Jiang has been standing by this whole time. So, Weijia, you heard what we've just been talking about what Parnas is alleging, essentially sort of drawing that line from the president to everything that happened in Ukraine. Are we hearing anything from the White House about these allegations?
Well, so far, no official word from the White House or President Trump, but White House Press Secretary Stephanie Grisham reportedly is making the case that Lev Parnas is a man who is currently out on bail for federal crimes and is desperate to reduce his exposure to prison. Now, that is fair because his credibility, as Nancy pointed out, is in question. However, he's not getting anything out of doing a television interview and revealing his relationship or his alleged relationship with President Trump and all those around the president. What we do know is the president has said on the record that he doesn't know who Lev Parnas is or his associate, Igor Furman, and that, even though there are pictures of them together, it's just because he has a picture with everybody. So we fully expect Mr. Trump to continue that defense and say, I don't know what he's talking about. I don't know who this man is. And just like we saw during the House proceedings, for the White House to really attack Parnas's character.
Well, speaking of his defense, he would be working on another defense, one for his impeachment. The president is going to be given a chance to formally respond to the charges against him. What will the White House response look like?
Well, it will probably be a written response and give us a solid preview of the White House's defense strategy and case against those charges in the articles of impeachment. Now, on that obstruction of Congress charge, we expect the White House will largely argue that the president did not obstruct justice because he was simply acting within his constitutionally protected rights. They are still trying to really solidify the defense team, even though it has already taken shape. It's going to be led by White House counsel Pat Cipollone. And right now, they're deciding whether to add into the mix some of the president's Republican allies in the House to help beef up their case. But the White House says they're fully prepared and they're ready for a trial. Two senior administration officials told us they don't expect it to last more than 2 weeks because it's a weak case and it'll go by very quickly. Of course, that's TBD.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I suggest that people don't make any plans for the next at least 3 weeks. So President Trump was active on Twitter yesterday, but mostly he was posting about the trade deal with China. How does that fit into what we know about the White House's strategy when it comes to dealing with the impeachment publicly?
So the strategy since day one has been to send the same messages over and over. So we're hearing the same things even now, despite all the major developments, despite the articles being formally sent over to the Senate. It's still very much the same from White House officials, including the vice president, the press secretary, other press aides, the president himself, calling this a sham, a partisan hoax, a witch hunt, and we're still seeing the same thing. But President Trump is certainly not going to shy away from defending himself, even though he was a little less active on Twitter about impeachment yesterday. The second part of the strategy is to focus on his accomplishments, and that's why we saw him tweet so much about the China trade deal, because it was a victory for the president. And he wants to, bring to the attention for voters and potential voters everything that he believes he has done to make their lives better. And so we'll continue to see that. But I will say, Anne-Marie, that despite it being such a big day here at the White House yesterday when he finally signed that deal that will be beneficial, especially to farmers and consumers, even during that, before the ink was dry, he was talking about impeachment. Yeah. And so, it's on his mind. It's something that he can't help himself from talking about. And so even though it was a little less yesterday, I expect it to really turn up, especially as the Senate trial is underway.
Yeah, I think you sort of mentioned how sad he was about needing to get good lawyers or something along those lines.
Yes.
Weijia, thank you so much.
Sure.